But since this sew it, what is sew it? Put it in the comments. What is that? Okay, sorry. Welcome back, friends. It is Lauren the Soap Witch, and it is time for another edition of In the Making. So in this one, I am making my Nosy Rosy fragrance. My father inadvertently named this soap, he just doesn't know it, and it is scented with rose maple zest, which is a combination between rose, maple, and lemon. Okay, so you just saw me measure out the lye very quickly, but I did measure it out on the scale, and now I'm measuring out my aloe vera juice because this is an aloe vera soap. Next, I'm going in with sodium lactate, which is just basically liquid salt, and finally sugar. The sodium lactate and sugar are to help the soap, oh my god, I can't already talk, the soap stay fluid. This is, after all, fluid or countertop hot process, same thing. So now I am going to add in my lye. You always pour your lye into your liquid, never the other way around. And then I give that a stir. And since it's not water, it is not going to go all the way clear, but I'm just going for a less milky appearance. So stirring until it's a little less milky. And while both the liquid and the lye solution are between 200 and 180 degrees, that's when I combine them together. I've just found that less than 180, it just doesn't quite behave the way I like. So going ahead, pouring that in there carefully, don't want any splashing. And then I'm going to go in with stick blending. So I stick blended this. This is pretty much that stick blender method. I believe I did this in the last couple of soaps. This is when I was really just actually getting a hang of it, because the soaps that I just posted before were actually made after this one. But you know, just got a little out of order since those were holiday soaps. Off topic, ADHD, my bad. Anyway, so I'm just stick blending this. As you can see, it is getting thicker as I go, because that's what we want. You're going to go to trace and then past trace. As you can see, it is getting very thick. It's almost starting to look like it's doing that boily thing that I told y'all used to really scare me, and I would stop going at that point. Don't stop. That is what you want. So I felt like at this point I had stick blended enough, and so I just took my stick blender out, just kind of cleaned it off some before I proceed with stirring. As you can see in that top right corner that it is in fact volcanoing. So I was kind of waiting for that and just letting it go so I can impress you guys with the coolness of science. Okay, so then I'm taking my whisk and then just giving it a stir. I found that a more gentle stir that covers pretty much the whole surface of the pot all the way down through the bottom and the top and continuously going works better than just vigorously stirring. So vigorously stirring just makes it volcano harder, I feel like. That's just been my little experience. Do with that what you will. So I just did a whole bunch of stirring. Lots of stirring, waiting for it to volcano, and then stirring. The wait was not long, but you know, on my end, but you watching it would probably get bored. So I just kind of skipped through some of that. And so just going through and stirring. At this point, I've gotten tired of stirring. You can tell it is a lot of stirring, and it's 10 pounds of soap. So my arms do get a little tired, but you can see that it is changing and morphing, applesaucey, and then just getting a thicker like consistency. We're on the right track here. And then it's just kind of morphing into from applesauce to the mashed potato phase. Though it may look tasty, do not be tempted. Okay, so very mashed potatoey right here. And then we're going to morph from the mashed potato to just full on finished soap. It kind of has a Vaseline type look, if you will. Gets a little less opaque and pretty shiny throughout. And the consistency just kind of reminds you of Vaseline, looser Vaseline, not quite so thick. Anyway, so that was done. And now I measured out my full fat Greek yogurt off camera. It does not need to be full fat or Greek, but please make it plain. Okay, so now that since I measured it out, I'm just taking my spatula and just dumping it in there. And once I get it all in there, I'm just going to take my whisk and give it a nice thorough stir. Do everything I can to fully incorporate it. The yogurt, of course, is just a nice addition to pretty much any soap, but then also it's used to help with the fluidity as well. I do all the things to help the soap be as fluid as possible. So it's looking really good, really fluid. So I'm going to put the lid on so I don't lose too much heat while I go ahead and measure out my colorants. So going in with titanium dioxide here, and then I'm going to mix in some of my Voodoo pink. Voodoo is a matte mica color, and I mixed those two together because I wanted a paler pink for my rose soap that I did not have. So titanium dioxide just lightens up whatever color you have pretty much. So going in with bright yellow raincoat, pretty sure that's what that one's called, also a matte mica color. I love it because it is just so super vibrant. So just giving that a stir to incorporate it into the oils that I reserved from the beginning of the recipe. And finally, I'm pretty sure this is Granny Smith apple. I think that's from Wholesale Supplies Plus. And I ran out of maniacal pea, so I started using this one because I had it, and waste not, want not. So now that I've got all my colors incorporated into their oils, I'm going to go ahead and pour in my fragrance, which somehow I missed recording when I measured it, but there it is nonetheless. So just dumping that in there, taking my whisk, giving it a nice stir because I want that to be completely incorporated. Sometimes no matter how much I stir, I will still end up with some loose fragrance oil at the bottom of the pot. It happened to me this time. But I try to stir as much as I can. Just get it is ingrained or whatever impossible into the soap. Words just start failing me, always in the middle of a voiceover, whatever. So I'm just going to start separating the soap out now so I can color it. So the largest amount of soap is going to get the largest amount of color, and I'm just measuring it out in the containers that in my mind, at least at the time, feels like it will contain that much soap and color. Sometimes I'm wrong, but I try not to be. So anyway, the largest amount is going to be that pink that I made. And then I'm going to follow up with the green in the 2 small container, and then yellow also in the 2 small container. I'm saying that because you'll see. Anyway, so now that I've gotten them poured in, I'm just going to take my spatula in my pail size container here and just give it a nice thorough stir. Even though it is fluid, it's not cold processed, so it still needs a little elbow grease to get those colors fully incorporated, because what you don't want is bits of uncolored soap in your final product. Not cute. You don't want it, trust me, I've been there. So anyway, you see me just gingerly stirring, trying to knock the soap out of this 2 small container. That's what I meant when I said earlier. I still made it work, but the struggle doesn't have to be this real. So anyway, more stirring, very gingerly, as you see, if you will, so I don't knock it all out of the container, and getting that fully incorporated. I really love this yellow. It's so bright and vibrant and pretty. Okay, so plopping those molds up there, and we're just going to layer those colors in there nice and easy. So you know I like to layer my colors in contrasting order, though all of these colors are pretty contrasting. I don't know why my mouth doesn't want to work right today, but we're gonna press on. So just want to get a nice layer of soap at the bottom of each mold just to make sure it's all covered, and then I'm just going to take each one and just kind of bang it on the table just to make sure the whole bottom is covered and everything is even. And then I'm just going to go in with my colors. This one is another, I call it a modified drop swirl, because you typically only see that done with cold processed soap. But since this what is soap? Put it in the comments. What is that? Okay, sorry. Since this soap is so fluid, I was mixing soap and fluid. I just felt like I could just try it, and see what happens. So sometimes it yields nice results. Actually, it's never just yielded terrible results. Sometimes it's a little nicer than others. But I raised the container so high above the mold with the idea that it will sink into the color previously that I poured previously a little bit, and just kind of help the merging and the swirling happen on its own. So more banging against the counter to make everything just flush and fluid, all mixed together nicely in the mold. And so sometimes when I just kind of run low on color in there, I'll just take my spatula and scrape some out, that like I just did there. So a final slamming there against the table to make sure everything is nice and situated. And then I'm going to go in with my pixie dust. I gotta have it. And then I'm just going to sprinkle that across the top. Love me some glitter. Okay, so get those all nice and glittery along the top. And then after that, I'm going to take my metal chopstick and get to swirling. You don't got to put glitter. You don't got to swirl the tops. I just think it looks prettier that way. It's personal preference. That's it. Pretty, right? They look really nice. So I put them in the freezer for around 5 hours. and then I took them out and let them thaw. We've discussed it, but we're gonna discuss it again because I am that thawed. Oh my god, I'm mixing all my words together. That scarred. This is gonna be the worst voiceover ever. Just, could you say anything right? Maybe. Okay, anyway. So I don't cut them frozen or even half frozen because I broke my last cutter that way, and my feelings was all hurt over it. So anyway, I gingerly take the whole entire loaf out of the mold, gently place it in the cutter, push it all the way to the end just to make sure we're gonna hum and ha, and then I'm gonna pull the cutter down on top of the whole loaf, and I want to pull them apart just to make sure that I'm not getting any, residue or whatever. I also wipe the wire down after each cut to make sure I don't drag residue through the next cut. Okay, so now that I've chipped over my mouth enough, this is the final cuts. I thought they really turned out very nicely. Currently at this time, it is Black Friday, so these are all available for 30% off, as is everything on my website. Just point that out if you're interested in some soaps. So I hope you like what you saw in this video. If you did, please consider subscribing to my channel. See you in the next one.